Hello, everyone. My name is Gus, and I'm again with Steve and Nick. We're going to do a
Hey.
little roundtable. This is episode 2, where yet we tackle another controversial topic. And this topic, I got the idea, just give him credit, Ben from Unified Team Diving. They have a podcast, and they were talking about Nitrox specifically. So we're going to talk about Nitrox. And
hmm
his comment, and I'm just paraphrasing, it's not exactly what he said, but he says that Nitrox is a useless gas. And the reason for this is, let me just hold on, because
Oh.
everybody's already in the comments just smashing, right? The reason why he said it's useless is because what you're trying to achieve with nitrox is to decrease the amount of nitrogen that we're intaking, right? But in the process, you are also, first of all, wasting oxygen because you're not metabolizing all of the oxygen. Let's say you have nitrox 32, you're not using the full on 32%. So you're wasting that. And you're limiting yourself on the depth because the maximum operating depth will now change since you have more oxygen in the mix. So he's saying, look, if you need to decrease the amount of nitrogen and continue to dive to 130, 40 meters, whatever, 132 feet, add helium. You need Trimix. You don't need Nitrox. So Nitrox is useless. What do you guys think?
Wow. The first thing that comes to mind straight away is plan your dive, dive your plan. And
Okay.
you need to choose the gas that's appropriate for the dive that you have planned to do. So if you're diving to a depth, let's say greater than 30 meters or 35, 40, I tend to go to 40 personally. That'll be heresy to the GUE guys and all that, but 40 is my number. If I'm going past 40 meters, I want to add some helium to my mix at that point. But below 40 meters, if I'm open circuit, I really want to be choosing the appropriate nitrox for the dive that I have planned to do. And so what
Right.
I'm trying to do is, as we said, like reduce my decompression obligation and make sure that I'm diving the best gas I can. Of course, it's only the best gas at one depth in your dive. The rest of the dive, it's not. So you'll choose it for the greatest depth. And yes, of course, if you go deeper than that, you're going to have oxygen toxicity issues, and shallower than that, you're going to be diving a suboptimal gas, which is where rebreathers come in. The problem with helium is its cost. It is so damned expensive now. And when I did all my open circuit Trimix training, only trained to normoxic, but it was 4 euro cents a liter. I have no idea what it costs now, but I do know I got two 50 cubic feet cylinders filled with 1845 recently. It was $400.
Yes.
So
That's why
yeah.
rebreathers
So
are
it's
awesome.
crazy. Yeah, exactly. And I've still got it, and I've done about 10 dives with it now. So
Yeah.
you just, the cost of helium just really drives that argument out the door now. And so I think we have to plan our dives in a different way. I'm not saying that we should push the depth that we diving on air, for instance, but you do have to go back to air if you want to go deeper than 40 and you want to not use Trimix. And that's another subject of deep air diving, which I think we've probably all agreed we shouldn't do.
Right.
So I would just say, like, plan your dive, choose the gases appropriate for the dive you're going to do. Nitrox is an amazing gas for dives shallower than 30 meters. As
Right.
you
So
go
if you're at
deeper than
like
30,
25 meters, right? Because that's the
yeah,
sweet
man,
spot.
like you should be using. Oh, amazing! You should be using Nitrox. And like, I'm going to the Canterbury Rec this weekend, and it's a horrible dive to do on air because it's 37 to 14 to 37 meters is the rec, and if you dive that on air, your bottom time, if you're being
5 minutes.
relatively, yeah, you get 10, 20 minutes at depth, and
Right.
then you've got to come up, and it's just not a very nice dive. Nitrox, much better dive.
Right. What do you
Nick.
think, Nick? Is it useless?
I mean, I think that's something easier to say than actually change. I mean, saying it's useless, I think, is kind of is I don't know if that's the proper way to put it. Just because it's not everybody has access to helium, and then like you were saying, the costs are just extremely, especially when you get to parts like Southeast Asia, it's not. And that's where I'm based, is Malaysia, and the cost of helium is just it's pretty wild. So to think that, like, oh, just add helium. I mean, yeah, if you have your own setup, it's nice, or if you have access to it, then it is. But in reality, it's just not there. So I definitely don't think it's useless. I definitely think it's I don't want to say godsend or anything like that, but like I definitely think it's appropriate to use when you can. But yeah, I definitely do not think it's useless.
Well, I feel like nitrox is kind of like an in-between gas. It's like if you're diving like up down to 20 meters, like air is fine. 66 feet,
Hmm.
air is fine. You don't need nitrox for that. I mean, even the NDL limit for 60 feet or 66, 20 meters is 60 minutes, I think. Like an hour you can spend
Hmm.
at that depth with air. So yeah, like nitrox will give you like 90 or whatever it is, but like who's doing a 90-minute dive at 20 meters who's just a regular open water guy with just one tank? If you're side
Hmm.
mount, I get it, but just one tank on your back, like I don't think you can go that far. Um, I do agree that Trimix is a great gas. I love Trimix. It is expensive, but the other thing that is the downside of Trimix is the helium penalty. Like I started diving, the caves here in Florida are like 100 to 105 to 115 feet. So like 30 something meters, something like that. It's perfect for Nitrox 32. It's right below the MOD of Nitrox 32. But I got in this trip of the 30-30. 30-30 is a very common gas that is used here in Florida. So 30% oxygen, 30% helium. And the idea is you can be, if you bail out to 30-30 in a rebreather, you will be, no problem. Like 115 feet, 120, like pushing up to 40 meters, you'll be fine with 30-30. Pretty high PO2, but you'll be okay. But man, every time we did a long dive, like a 2.5, 3 hour dive, and I had 30-30, my deco was always so much higher than everyone with nitrox. I'll be like, what is going on? Why is my deco like outrageous? Like I was keeping a good PO2.
Yeah.
Like what happened? It was helium. As soon as I switched back to nitrox for my bailout gas, I was in par with everyone when it came to deco.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and that's a whole discussion. I mean, at some point, you might want to grab Simon Mitchell or Neil Pollock or
yeah,
one of those guys and talk about that helium penalty and is it real and what's the science behind that?
that is
Because
another.
it's a big
There's
one, and
there's no
you
lack of
need the experts
controversial
for that.
topics, huh? For us to
No,
have these
not at
meetings.
all,
I
not at
hope
all.
people enjoy them, right? I hope people watch and suggest other topics as well and continue to tune in. I certainly enjoy talking to you guys. I think again on this one we all agree again. So I'm glad because I'm typically the only one getting attacked. So now all of us will get attacked. So that's good. I'm
Yeah,
happy
yeah,
about that. But I think we agree that Nitrox is great. And, if on that specific sweet spot, if you're within, 20, I would say, 30, 25 to 30 meter, range, 80 feet to 100 feet. I think that's Nitrox territory there.
yeah. Yeah,
You know,
and I
I,
think we missed the safety. We missed the safety factor too, Gus. There, that
true,
if you really want to, manage your decompression in a very, very safe way, you could dive air, like set your computer to air, dive nitrox, and you've got this massive margin of safety there as well.
true. I am glad though that you bring this up because this is another thing that I disagree with just your regular scuba diving training. And I got this when I took my nitrox class, which was the safety aspect of it in terms of, look, if you want to be extra safe, you set it to air. But that's not
Hmm.
true because the MOD of air is way higher or deeper than the MOD for nitrox 32.
Correct,
So if
correct.
you set your computer to air, yes, you're being safe in terms of no decompression limits. So your no decompression
Hmm.
limits will be
Hmm.
lower, but your depth is a problem, right? In feed is 111 is the MOD maximum operating depth of nitrox 32. The
Hmm.
MOD for air is 218 feet. So it's just like way more,
56 meters. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I
56
think
meters.
you still have to dive your plan, Gus. I mean, so
Right.
just because you set your computer to the air, that and this is something that and it's another topic, but you can't just rely on your computer on a dive, right? It's not.
Correct.
It's not.
It's not going to
It's
dive it
not
for you.
absolute pure science. So you dive your plan still, but all I was suggesting is you manage your decompression on the air,
For
certainly
sure.
not your depth. You're right.
For sure. So I think for instructors out there, I know you guys do this, but for instructors out there that are teaching people like this blanket statement that if you're diving nitrox, just set your computer to air because it's safer. Always remember to
Hmm.
add that caveat of it depends on the depth. The MOD of nitrox is way shallower than air. So keep that in
Spot
mind.
on.
Anyway, if you are watching this and enjoy these conversations, leave us a comment below, suggest other topics for the future, and make sure you tune in to episode 1 where we talked about what is it we talked about in episode 1? I already forgot.
We did
I
everything. Single cylinder side mount, dry suits.
Right,
What else
dry
should we
suit,
cover?
dry suit buoyancy.
There you go.
Go ahead and check that out. Send it to your instructor. He'll be mad and comment below, which is great. And share it with everybody. And we'll see you on the next one.